Hi, Maddie Cook. How are you?
It's a thing. Hi, Haley Jepson. I'm really, really good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. I'm looking forward to recording an episode with you. It's all good.
Yay. Okay, what have we got?
So, well, this week we are going to discuss a topic that has been suggested by our listener. So I'm
Oh,
excited
exciting.
about that.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, we've been getting a few people suggesting
mm-hmm.
topics, and we what we want to say here is we love it when people suggest
Yeah,
topics. You
definitely.
know,
Yeah.
if you've got something you'd like us to talk about, please do send us an email, drop into our DMs, whatever. Find a way to let us know. So today, a listener suggested that we have a conversation about dealing with difficult clients and kind of
Right.
specifically when is too much, like, you know, at what point, what's the line when someone becomes really difficult? And also their example was a bit like, you like them as a person, but you finding them very, very difficult to manage in your business. And it really made
Yeah.
me laugh, actually. Well, laugh in a very wry way, in that
Mm-hmm.
survivor's humor way, when I read it, because I thought, people popped into my head immediately from my past when I read
Same.
that.
Straight
Yeah.
away. I'm
Like,
like, yeah, I know her.
yeah,
Yeah.
like three clients popped into my head from
Mm-hmm.
when I was behind the chair. And it's like, I experience this a lot. I remember I used to say things like, I want to go for a drink with them, but I don't want to do their hair anymore. I
Yeah.
really like them, but I found them very, very difficult to manage for
Mm-hmm.
one reason or another in my business. It's
Mm-hmm.
not even that they were the clients that we sometimes describe as sucking your soul out. It's
No,
that
no,
they're
that makes, yeah.
difficult. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they're just difficult. And that means different things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For different people. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, got any examples, Maddie? Like, how do you think about this? How did this show up for you in your business?
Yeah, and I think that's why we have to be specific about like we really like these people, but like hard to do business with them.
Yeah.
I had a really lovely client who was like, oh, you know me, I'm easy breezy, and I was like, you're not. You are not easy breezy. Just sit, like it's, and that's okay. And I think she thought that we were, and was like, oh yeah, I'm just like you. And I was like, you're not. You're really really particular, and that's absolutely fine. And that
Yeah.
in a way for me is helpful because it means if you tell me what that is, I can deliver on that brief. But don't be like, oh, I'm so easy breezy, and then be like, Maddie, it's just a tiny bit, what's this bit here? Do you know what I mean? So that's someone
Yeah.
that just came to mind straight away because I really, really liked her, really got on with her. But it was that for me, how she said she was, words and actions weren't in alignment, and there was like a weird little, almost like a dishonesty or that sort of thing. Yeah.
I'm writing that down. Words and actions were not in alignment. Honestly, I
Yeah.
couldn't put that better, Maddie. I think that's what gives you the icky feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think
Something's not
for
right.
me, I think
Mm-hmm.
about when I think about the people that I found difficult, but I liked them, it's
Mm-hmm.
because they gave me this usually a panicky feeling in my
Mm-hmm.
stomach. Something was
Mm-hmm.
happening inside, and it is exactly that. I've never really give it much thought until now, actually.
Yeah.
Really as to why, but words and actions don't align because it
Yeah.
makes you don't know where you are. You
Mm-hmm.
feel all over the place, don't you, around it?
Yeah.
It's difficult to manage that situation. Yeah, because they're saying one thing but doing another, or saying like
Yeah.
it's a bit like they're saying something lovely with a frown.
Yeah.
It's not tallying, is it? You're
Yeah.
like, I don't know
The
what's
maths
happening
doesn't
here.
matter. Yeah, and
Yes.
I think sort of a very specific challenge like in that vein, and I see this in the group as well. I see people really struggling with this. Is how do you deal with a person? Because it's really easy to deal with a person who's broken rules and policies
Yeah.
because you have consequences. That one's actually fairly easy, although it's difficult in the delivery, but there's a process for it. How do you deal with someone, especially maybe if you don't want to work with them or well that's where you're heading, but when they've not actually broken any rules, because that's when you really feel like a dick because it's like it's not
Yeah.
me, it's you. Like, how is that not a
Yeah.
personal, like a personal attack? That feels really
It's
hard.
so hard, isn't it? I mean, I'm thinking about clients that I've had in the past, and it is that thing of they weren't turning up late. or anything like that. It was more,
Mm-hmm.
it was really more of a feeling that they gave me. And I had a couple of clients that I used to say, describe them as time bombs, because
Mm.
I always felt they were going to complain.
And did
And I'm
they?
not even,
Oh,
and no, never,
no, just the feeling of the
never.
angst.
But every time I did their hair for about a week afterwards, I was anticipating the phone call or the text. And
Yeah,
they
yeah,
never
yeah.
came. These people stayed with me for years and were in theory happy, but I
Mm.
never really felt like they were. And it
But
must
they
have
won't tell
been,
you.
no, but I also think they must have been, yeah, they never told me they were happy. That's exactly it.
Oh, right,
They
okay,
never
okay,
actually
yeah.
told me they were happy,
Mm-hmm.
is probably what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was, I don't know. It was so bizarre. I felt like, from a therapy point of view, I was in some sort of game with them. There was some sort of game going on.
Right.
I don't know what it
Yeah, yeah,
was.
yeah.
I'm going to have a really good think about this, though. But they stayed with me for years. They always had very low level, like, yeah, no, it's
Do you know what?
nice.
It just made me think that, and this is such a like when you're a people pleaser. Do you know when you do the big reveal and they don't give you a big reaction, and it's especially if it's a big transformation you've done, like I did extensions, and I'd
And
be
they
like,
go,
"Here's your hair," and they go, uh-huh, yeah, mm-hmm. And your heart sinks, and you go, "Do you like it? Do
yeah,
you not like it? Is there anything wrong?" And they go, "No, no, it's lovely." And that's when you're waiting that week, isn't it? And you think every time the
yeah,
phone goes off, you think, oh my God, it's going to be her. But she keeps coming back. It's like a mind
keeps coming
twist. Like,
back. Yeah,
yeah.
I've had clients who I feel like actually were a bit more never likes their hair, but never
Mm-hmm.
left. And
Yeah,
it
that's
just,
a
and it's
whole
so
other
few.
thing. Like,
Yeah, it's so strange, but it's like there's something going on under the surface. And it is what you
mm-hmm,
say, words and actions don't align.
mm-hmm,
I sometimes felt like what they were saying to me was not what was going on. I was doing a lot. I felt like I was doing a lot of reading between the lines.
it's hard.
But what's interesting as well is, you know, and maybe we can talk about this though, is maybe it was some of it was in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe we want the big, I love it. And when we don't get it, we go, they hate it. It's all
Yeah.
about me. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
so interesting, really, when you think about it
Yeah.
from this point of view, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I suppose it's this, to try and answer this listener's
Mm-hmm.
question, what's too much? What do we tolerate? What do we not? And I think we've got to really think about, and we talk about this a lot, don't we? Some things are in our control and some things aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And we can control our boundaries and stuff in our business, can't we? But
Mm-hmm.
we can't control people's personalities. We've just
Yeah.
got to decide if we've got I think about the mental capacity to cope with them, spend a few
Yeah.
hours with them.
Exactly.
You know,
And
not
I find that
everybody
all
gets on.
Yeah, and this is a lesson I'm learning more recently that when I was younger, I'm a very like values based person. I have very sort of particular values, and I like stick to them. But what I realize as I get older is that like I don't need every single person to agree with me on every single point. I have my non-negotiables. So like if you're like a mad racist, like
Yeah,
I'm not going to hang out with you. I'm not going to work with you. You're not going to sit
yeah,
in my chair. I'm not going to coach you. But we can have a difference of opinion, and I think that's growth, maybe, and maturity. Hopefully, of like I can, if like 90% feels good, I can tolerate some level of like the stuff that I can just go. We're not even going to, like you
yeah,
think that not my circus kind of vibe. So I
yeah.
definitely think that I found that harder before. And I think when there's the business dynamic, if someone's paying you, when I was mobile, I felt very conscious that I was in this person's home, they're paying me. I felt like I had to tolerate
Yes.
more. Whereas when I had a salon, and in particular now, and I'm much more boundaried and I guess more self-assured, weirdly I'm tolerating more, but in a different way. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, from like a more of an adult perspective, whereas before I was like, oh my God, I can't say anything, and this person's infuriating me. And then it's that whole thing of when you don't like someone, everything they do winds you up, like every single
Mm.
thing. But I felt like I couldn't sack them as well because it wasn't like a sort of particular reason. But
It is so interesting.
yeah,
I think as hairdressers, I see it a lot being talked about, and I think about myself in the past where we do a lot of tolerating,
Mm-hmm.
tolerating conversations we're not really all that interested
Mm-hmm.
in. It's not that this is all the time. I think it's a small part of the job, isn't it? But it can,
Mm-hmm.
this difficult clients and, conversations you might not want to have and stuff, but it becomes massive in your mind, even though it's such a small percentage of your clientele.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that keeps us awake at night, isn't it? And
Totally.
it's so interesting how I think kind of antisocial behavior can be happening in salons, but it's quite low level. It's not
Yeah.
kicking off, but
Yeah.
you just think, come on, come on,
Yeah.
you know? And it is, what do we tolerate? But I think maybe let's talk about, Maddie, what should we not be tolerating? What do you think?
Yeah. So I think of it as like non-negotiables, nice to haves, stuff that I'm not really that asked about. Like there's sort of levels and lines for me. So like as a
Mm,
rule, like I say, I will not tolerate my like non-negotiables would be like any of the isms or phobias, as in
yeah,
like homophobia,
yeah,
transphobia, racism, bigotry, misogyny, all of that
yeah,
stuff. I'm really open to having conversations and dialogue, and I like to have that, and I'm open about political conversations and religious and quite deep conversations like that. But I just personally could not tolerate to work with someone, or I don't want to have that working relationship. And I think what's cool is in our control is who we work with. Um,
yeah,
we can't discriminate against people, but we can say, I don't want to work with, you don't have to work with every single client is what I'm trying to say. But yeah,
mm,
those would be it for me. And maybe like disrespect, but you have to be mindful of, are they genuinely disrespecting me, or have I just got the ick with this person and I'm now mad about everything that they do?
yes. I do think
Yeah,
it's so
what about you?
interesting. I was really having to think about what do we not tolerate, and I think there's the big things, and I think even if you're employed. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're self-employed or employed, it can be different, can't it? Because I do feel I did a bit more tolerating when I didn't choose who was in my chair
Mm-hmm.
as an
Definitely, yeah.
employed person. Whereas as a freelancer, I tolerated a little bit less because I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to work with certain people. But I also think that as I became more experienced, more in demand, um, I also could decide I didn't want to tolerate some stuff that isn't the big isms. They
Mm-hmm.
weren't raging racists or
Mm-hmm.
misogynists or
Mm-hmm.
just really rude and late and all,
Mm-hmm.
just things that are bigger in
Mm-hmm.
business. I just didn't enjoy talking to them for 3 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
so, actually, as I started to, tighten up who I served, I did stop tolerating just stuff where I just found them difficult. And I thought, doing
Yeah.
business with you is hard. I can't even put my finger on why, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
thrilled when I see your name on my booking
Yeah.
system. And so I
Yeah.
think with experience and security in your business, you do get to do a bit less tolerating. But I
Yeah.
think the things that we really shouldn't be tolerating is, yeah, the really big things that don't align with your values. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think it's interesting when you're saying, have I been disrespected, or are we just not a good fit?
Yeah.
And I think about this a lot because I hear a lot of hairdressers talk about being disrespected a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But what you find out through a little bit of digging is they're a little bit wishy-washy with their boundaries. And so they feel disrespected when someone says, can you do my hair on Sunday night? But
Mm-hmm.
actually, if someone doesn't know your working hours, they're going to ask because they're trying to find out. And so
Mm-hmm.
I find hairdressers feel disrespected a lot. But if you're not upfront with how you do things, you will get asked questions that feel cheeky. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
if anyone
all of
hasn't
that.
listened to the episode on Secret Deal, go and listen to that, because that's exactly what that or what the kind of the next step to that is. Are are they really difficult, or have you made a secret deal where you're going, a person should do this, a person, I really want to get
Yeah.
into detail on
Oh,
that. Yeah.
people should behave like this, but you've not told them. And people have really
Mm-hmm.
different beliefs of how you should behave and how businesses
Mm-hmm.
run, and even how they perceive you based on how you behave.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're not,
Yeah, that's interesting.
haven't got really clear systems, they might not
Mm-hmm.
see you as professional, and then
Yeah,
start being a bit more like, oh, she's doing me a favor, and behaving in
yeah,
that way. And so how
yeah.
you present yourself really makes a difference. But it is really interesting, isn't it, where we've got to think, are they difficult? Is it us? But some people just push your buttons, don't they? Don't you
Yeah,
think
some
some people
people can
just push
just
your
really
buttons? You
trigger
just
the hell
think,
out of you, like, yeah. And
yeah, and
it's
it's
like a
so
facial
interesting. And
expression, or yeah, or not, like, was they not enthusiastic enough, or because I'm like an enthusiastic
they
person, I'll be
remind you
like,
of
oh my
someone you don't
God.
like.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah, they're not high
yeah.
energy enough, and you think that means they don't like you or the board or something. And it's just like they're just not matching your energy,
That's
and
just
that's
how
just
they
not
are,
how they
yeah.
are.
I
Mm,
remember a really, really lovely client as well that I get on with so well in real life, but she texts in a way that's really short and curt, and she doesn't put kisses on, and she's
yes.
like very formal. To do this is It's to do with a job. I know why she's like this, and I would get a text from her, and I'd be like, oh my God, she's so mad at me, like she's so
She's
angry.
going to sue me.
Um, yeah, like she literally hates me. She's This is so. I felt like it was rude, and she sounds disappointed, and I'd see it in real life. Honestly, sweetest woman, like the nicest, kindest, warmest, funniest woman, and it was just how she communicated. Um,
Yeah, she
that
needed to
one just
learn
popped into my head.
emojis.
Yeah, I was like, please put a
Just what I
kiss
say
on
to her
for
one
me.
day, can I introduce you to emojis?
Yeah, could I please have
Just
a
so you can
smiley
set a tone
face?
for your
My
texts.
calm me
I,
down
I'm
now.
all about the emojis, just so that people don't,
Yeah,
I put so many emojis in things just so that people can go, I promise you, I'm
she's
smiling when I'm
okay.
saying it. I'm
Yeah,
smiling. It is.
well,
And I think we've got to try and answer this question definitively, though. Like, we've talked a lot about what's behind it, what's in
mm-hmm,
your control, what's not, how sometimes it might
mm-hmm,
be secret deals, or we make it about us when it's not. It's
mm-hmm,
not about us.
mm-hmm,
But how do you, when you've decided enough is enough, this person's difficult,
mm-hmm,
what are we going to say? And so I think it might be interesting, Maddie, if we do something like, how would we do it? And
mm-hmm.
does that differ to how we are now? Is that different to what we might have done, let's say, 15 years ago behind the chair?
Oh,
You know, like,
wildly
let's
different, I'll
do a
tell
bit
you
of
now.
personal exampling. Yeah,
Okay.
try and sort of answer the question definitively, so someone might have words they can use
So
or
me
ones
of
that
the
we might not want to do.
past, past Maddie. This is people pleaser Maddie, not as pre-therapy Maddie, less confident Maddie. All of this, yeah, a lifetime ago. I would have either dealt with it and then complained to everyone else. So everyone at home would have heard about it, and then I'd be like, "Hello, nice pie."
Yes.
Or I
Like,
would
that's
have
like
done
four in a bed.
I would have done the foreign bed. Well,
Okay.
yeah, that leads me on. I would have done the pass ag, what you refer to as telling off the whole class because of one naughty kid. So I do the Facebook status. Guys,
I'm
please
not.
don't text me on a Sunday night. I'm very busy, and even though I would not take any
Yeah.
responsibility or control and just go, here's a booking system or here's my opening hours. And I'd reply to them one Sunday,
Yeah.
and then I'd be pissed off the next Sunday because I felt aggrieved. Um,
Yes.
all of the above. What would Past Haley have done?
Similar stuff in the way that I'm thinking about when I was employed, I really felt I had to tolerate clients that were actually sometimes quite rude.
Mm-hmm.
And I did do a lot of tolerating of some quite difficult clients early on in my career when I worked in quite a, posh salon, if you like. And I think what I would have done now about that, because I think, if you're freelancer employed, you do have less control over who's sitting in your chair. But I
Oh
think if
yeah.
you're employed, sometimes you do need to go and, why didn't I just go and say to my boss, this person is incredibly disrespectful?
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of have a conversation about that, because I think a lot of salon owners are really willing to stick up for the staff and
Yeah.
say, you can't talk to people like that. We don't
Mm-hmm.
tolerate that here. And so I think I tolerated a lot of stuff that I didn't need to, because I think some of my salon owners certainly would have helped. In hindsight, I look back and think they would have helped with that. But I was worried about so many things and I was young.
Yeah.
And so I just thought I had to, when I had older, what I considered as older, more professional, posher people speaking to me in a way that made me feel not great, I just thought I had to tolerate that. And so I think there is something about, I would reach out for help more now as an employed
Yeah.
person and say, this makes me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a freelancer, though, when I did have a bit more control, oh my God, I did what you just like thinking. I just moaned about them in the staff room a lot. And I
Yeah.
did a lot of they shouldn't do this, they should know this,
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of making judgments that they should know how to behave and never
Yeah.
really considering that I didn't have to tolerate certain things.
Yeah. Or that you didn't teach
Um,
them how to treat you.
I didn't teach them how to treat me, which is my favourite saying, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I did actually get pretty good um, in the latter years of my business behind the chair by saying to some people, I've said this to somebody once, I've noticed you've been unhappy the past few times I've done your hair. I think
Mm-hmm.
I might not be able to give you what you want. And
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend that you went to such a person. Or
Yeah.
I think it's time I think it's time you found a new hairdresser. I, you
Yeah.
know, I think I said stuff like, it's not great for me. I don't like the fact that you're not happy, but it's not great for me either when I'm constantly disappointing you. And so,
Mm-hmm.
more or less permission to go somewhere else. I
Yeah.
found ways to have conversations like that. And they
Yeah.
were okay. And actually, for some of the people, like, do you know those ones who I just felt they were unhappy or they gave me these weird feelings but never complained? I did sometimes say, I feel like you're not happy with your hair.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, oh, sorry. No, I like it. They were just a bit
Yeah.
understated. But when I sort of said, I really feel like you don't like, I think I said to someone once, I feel like you don't like it. And I want to let you know it's fine if you go somewhere else. And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to go anywhere else. And they
Yeah.
did change their behavior a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did find ways to kindly say, I feel like this. How do you feel? Do you like
Yeah.
it? We don't have to do this. You're free to
Yeah.
go. And sometimes they left, and sometimes they were like, oh, I'm sorry you feel like that. I really like it. And they kind of
Mm-hmm.
checked themselves a little bit. And so I do think it's possible. And what I
Yeah.
actually got much better was gatekeeping in the first place. When I
Yeah.
got people in for consultations, I often
Oh.
said, yeah, I'm not the hairdresser for you. And they were like, what do you mean? I
Yeah.
really like your work. And I was like, but it's not work I want to do. And sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
because I just got a weird feeling from them. And I would say,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't work I want to do. And sometimes it wasn't work I wanted to do.
You
So
get
I
like a
did find
sixth sense.
ways.
Yeah, like you can tell in DMs like what I think you can get a good sense of what that's going to be like. Another thing that I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
that I would have done and that I see a lot of people do, and so I just want to sort of speak it out, is that people often suggest this in the group when someone's like dealing with this. They'll say, just lie to them. Just say, I'm fully booked. I'm not taking new clients. But
Mm,
and I would have done this as well. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't. But what I found and what I find with folks who do it now, you are solving a problem kind of in the immediate, but you make such a big problem later when you're like, I now need to advertise space, but I've told this person that I'm fully
oh.
booked, and it's like, just
And
have the
they're like,
conversation.
hello.
Yeah, and like
They're the
message
first
question
person.
marks. Yeah, and I think exactly the
Yeah.
same as I had a really similar phrase to you, which is just I took the full responsibility. Even if I thought this person was a bit of a dick, I'd be like, I don't think that I can meet your needs in the way that you need them to be
Yeah.
met.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would invite you to go to someone who better suits your requirements. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this works as well if they're like breaking boundaries. So if they want to cancel on the day, obviously policies protect you from that, but suggesting maybe it's best to go to someone who can do walk-ins or who doesn't doesn't need appointments, or if they
Yeah.
are trying to get you to work late, maybe you need someone who just works late. Um,
Yeah.
or who will do
Yeah.
this type of work that I'm not prepared to do. So, but yeah, I think
Hmm.
just have the conversation, guys. Like it is so I know it's
Yeah.
difficult
With
in the moment,
kindness
but
as well, isn't it?
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
with kindness and responsibility and owning your
yeah,
side of it.
yeah,
And I think sometimes I was having a softer conversation of, I just feel like you don't want your hair and I want to let you know you can go somewhere else. You won't offend me,
yeah, yeah,
you know? And sometimes it was more like what you're saying of, I don't think I'm meeting your needs. I'm not doing it anymore.
yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
it
yeah,
was more of a, I'm seeing how this goes. And sometimes it was a hard line, a very
yeah,
polite, hard
definitely.
line of,
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter what you say back. I don't want to serve you anymore. And I'm saying it in the most lovely way I can come up with.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it can be
Don't make it
done.
hard for yourself later.
Can be done.
You'll kick yourself. Yeah, for sure.
No,
Love
future
that.
you won't be thrilled. And you don't
Yeah.
want, it chips away your energy, this small stuff, doesn't it? It is. It's
Oh
so
God, yeah,
interesting. There's so much covert stuff that goes on in hairdressing, though, isn't there?
yeah,
I just think it's so interesting what we're talking about. For
yeah.
sure. For
Love
sure.
it.
Well, I'd love to hear from people actually about their experience with this.
Yeah,
Those
definitely.
clients that they're not breaking rules, but they do feel difficult. I'd love to get some examples of how that is showing up for people.
Yeah.
I'd really be
Get us in the
interested in that.
DMs.
We love it.
Defo.
Write
Yeah.
in. Send us a postcard, as they used to say. So, so Maddie, it's hyper focus time.
I've got one that's been on the agenda for a while. Anyone who follows me on Instagram and watches my stories, I got into this a few months ago, and it's still very much around a hash brown stotty
Oh,
for
I don't even know what
breakfast
that is.
on a
What's a
week.
stotty?
So I've learned this. No one knows what it is because it turns out it's really northern. Like not even you northern. It's me northern.
Yeah, like
And I
you,
put it on my
Northern.
stories, and people are like, "What the hell's a stotty?" So stotty is basically, it's like a bun, a bomb, a butty, whatever you would call it, like a bread roll, but it's like really
Yeah,
rounded. It's quite flat. It's maybe like an inch, inch and a half deep. Um,
yeah.
in Greg's up here, you can buy a giant one. It's like 10 inches,
Oh,
and
yeah. You
people
call it a
do.
frisbee. We call them frisbees.
That's what it is then. So up here, people do like ham and peas pudding, but I do hash brown. Basically, it's a hash brown butty, and what I
Yeah.
find is because hash brown is technically a breakfast food, you're kind of eating a chip butty for
Mhm.
breakfast, and it's okay. I mean, it's
But
okay
it's
any way you do what you
okay.
want, but it's a
Yeah.
breakfast food. And now we made
Yes.
every weekend. We live in a lovely little village. There's nice little deli shops, and we go and we buy our little stotty. We do our air fryer hash browns, and
Oh, air fryer
it
hash
gives,
browns.
oh,
Oh,
so good.
just thought about
Um,
that. I'm like, well, I'll get some of them in the freezer.
15 minutes at 200 degrees. I'll tell you now off the top of my head.
Excellent.
That's how hyper focused I am. A buttered bun, so the butter's all melty, bit of tomato sauce. Oh, weekend,
Oh, are you putting salt and vinegar
beautiful.
on that?
Not
I'd be
vinegar,
putting
salt
salt
and a
and
little bit
vinegar
of
on that.
pepper. I'm not a vinegar
Oh,
person, but
interesting. Are you
yeah.
not? Interesting.
New
I
info.
like
What's
it.
what's
I'm a
yours?
very big fan, Maddie, of double carbing. I just want to throw that in. Double carbing,
Oh,
anything on a butty, I'm a fan
same.
of,
Carb in a
and more
carb.
carbs on butties.
Yeah, carb you
Yeah,
in.
well, if mine's a food related hyper focus this week.
Amazing.
And I've become obsessed with a familiar old friend food wise, which
Mm.
is wheat crunchy crisps. Do you
They're
like
like
wheat crunches?
the little pillowy looking things, or are they
They're
the
like
little
tubes.
tubey
They're
ones?
like tubes and they do smoky bacon flavour.
I
I
don't
think they're like,
think.
I think they're actually vegan. You don't know what they are.
I know what they
I'm
are,
going to send you a
but
picture.
I don't think I like them because I don't. I like crisps to be bad for you. I like potato in
These
fat. I
are
don't
bad for
like
you.
other. I
These are
thought they
not
were
help. They're not
newfangled.
like baked
Ah,
things.
I
Oh
thought
no, they're not. They're
yeah.
like, no, I'm not into baked crisps. That's just
I
weird. No,
can't do
these are
baked.
like
I can't do vegetable crisps. I just think give us a really greasy,
absolutely
salty,
not.
oh,
No, wheat
delicious.
crunches are not
Okay,
a
okay.
healthy option, pal. I'm pretty sure
Right,
they're not. I
okay.
mean,
Could I put
I'll
them
go
in
and
a
check the packet in a
butty?
minute.
Send us those
I put
macros.
them in butties. Exactly
Yes.
that. I'm
Carb butty.
obsessed. I'm sort of eating a packet a day minimum at the minute. Sometimes I'll just have them on a butty. I like a
Yes.
crisp butties generally, but wheat crunches is heavily in the rotation at the moment.
I am
I
telling
generally
you
have
now,
crisps on rotation, actually. I have an obsession
I'm
with the flavour of crisps, and then it moves on.
I'm not usually a big crisp. I'm totally a sweet person, but
Oh
I
yeah,
could get into. I know this is what we did for Haley, but
yeah, interesting. Didn't know that
crisp
about you.
butties. Oh, I'll tell
What?
you what's a great
Like
butty
amazing.
crisp skips. But you've got a very limited time because they start to get quite
Ooh.
soggy.
But I kind of like that a little bit, you know. I mean, when I was
Yeah,
younger and I
just
was in my, living on crisp butty situation, I was a fan of putting Philadelphia on a crisp butty as well.
that's
High
elevated.
level. It's an elevated crisp butty, is that? And that's how I use. But then it was kind of me tea when I was young.
Not so
So you got to get a
elevated.
bit of protein and not so elevated then.
Yeah.
However, but yeah, I've got a lifelong experience of crisp butties, Maddie. I'm quite the fan.
Oh, this maybe we
But
need a
wheat
new
crunches is
podcast
actually,
dedicated to crisp butty
honestly,
combos.
I saw
Right.
something in Hull where they were doing a crisp festival, and I was like, I need
Mm.
to go. It was just like a total celebration of crisps. I was like, I'm in.
I love it.
Anyway,
That's
there you
mint.
are.
We'll go. Amazed,
That's it for
honestly.
this
And
week.
again, comment, let us know, DMs, your favourite crisp and carb combos, please. And we'll do some
Yeah.
testing
Double carb
on stories.
situations
Please.
inspire me.
Well, as always, a very enlightening and thrilling and elevated highbrow conversation.
Yes, you always learn something, but it's not always what you thought.
No, not so much. No, it was mint. I hope this has been helpful for listeners because we've all been there. We've all had these clients, and yeah, I would love to know what you think.
Yeah, great to talk to you, Maddie. I'll see you next
And
week.
yeah, and you, matey, have a good one. Ciao.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments.
Please support those who support us and check out Timely, who we recommend as our favourite booking system for you. New customers can get 50% off their first 3 months with a code COFFEE50.